Blog Talk Radio.
Mitchell, and I'm so pleased to have you back for another edition of Viatorian Voices, our conversations on the way. As you know, if you listen to the podcast, we often focus on the people who are part of the Viatorian community and some of the work they do and learn a little bit about their backgrounds. And today I'm very pleased to be joined by two guests who have been involved in, well, a number of ways. I'm going to let them tell their story as we continue, but I'd like to welcome to this podcast Mary Finks and Susan Bourgeois. They are going to share their backgrounds and some of the things they're involved with. So, Mary, Susan, first of all, thank you for being here today.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you also. I'm excited to be doing this.
Yeah, we're looking forward to the conversation. Mary, I'm going to start with you. You were among the first Viatorian associates here in the U.S. We want to talk about the Viatorian associate experience, but kind of backtrack for us. Tell us a little bit what first brought you into the Viatorian community.
Well, when my husband and I moved to the Kankakee area, we moved into St. Patrick Parish, which is a Viatorian parish in Kankakee, Illinois. And I was very, very involved in music ministry from when we first joined the parish back in 1979, so I was very involved in music, and it was a Viatorian who invited me to consider this association, Father George Auger, who was the pastor at the time. And through some thought and discussion with my husband and a lot of discussion with Father George, I decided to enter into this venture. And because I was in the first group of associates, our pre-association time was a little bit longer than what people expect today. It does seem like it was 10, 20 years, but I first took my first commitment, made my first commitment to the Viatorians in 1999. So it's been a while that I've been a Viatorian associate.
Yeah, and a lot happens, and I'm sure the community has changed. We'll get into that a little bit as well. But Susan, talk about your path a little bit and how you first became involved.
Sure. Well, actually, I was engaged to be married, and my husband and I decided to start our lives attending a brand new church that neither of us had gone to before, and it was Immaculate Conception, St. Mary's of the Immaculate Conception in Kankakee. It has now closed since then. It was a very small, maybe 60-family parish, and it also was the pastor was a Viatorian. At that time, it was Father Robert Vadavunkur, and in residence there were other Viatorian priests also. I also was involved in music all my life, and once Immaculate Conception closed, we then started going to St. Patrick's Church in Kankakee, and Father Tom Langenfeld is the wonderful Viatorian man who is the one that invited both my husband and I to consider association. And I've never regretted the decision once. It has just been a wonderful journey, and I'm not as good as Mary. I don't remember the exact year that happened, but I know it's been a long time.
It's getting up there, Suze.
Now, I've enjoyed conversations with other Viatorian associates around the country, and I've had the pleasure to work with some in Arlington Heights at the high school there. But share with me, each of you, if you would, what it means to be a Viatorian associate, not so much the process and the formalities, but just from a activity perspective and what it means in your life. When we say you're an associate, what does that mean to you?
Go ahead, Suze.
Okay. Well, for me, it was a little odd at the beginning because the association process at the time was evolving. And so, to be quite honest with you, at the very beginning, we didn't really know what it meant. We knew that we loved being with these religious, and I also was like the parish secretary at Immaculate Conception. I had worked with a lot of Viatorians, and I loved their forward thinking. I loved all of the things they stood for, and the spirituality that I felt was growing within me, just to be around them. So, to me, association it continues to evolve. It is just something that has become a total part of me.
Right. I share a lot of what Susan says. However, I've never been employed by a Viatorian. I have always, since we've lived in Kankakee, have attended church at a Viatorian parish. But I'm a nurse by trade, and so their whole their whole charism or what's important to them is education of the young, service to the holy altar, which certainly when you're a musician, it's service to the holy altar. And it's also their regard for those that are regarded of little importance. And as a hospice nurse, sometimes taking care of a dying patient is to me, it always spoke to me when I was at the bedside that I do this not because I'm a nurse, but because I'm called to do this. I think I've always thought of my nursing profession as part of my Viatorianism, if that makes any sense.
It does, and it's very impactful to hear both of you talk about the experiences to date. And, it's funny, I have a list of questions and topics I wanted to cover, and Susan, I think you've already used the word evolve. You talked about the being an associate, how that process has evolved, but I was curious about the Viatorian community in general, since you both have some experience here. It has always been a very important and active community, but have either of you seen evolution as the world around us changes and how the Viatorians are adapting to continue serving the communities in need at this point?
Oh, absolutely. We have two Viatorians, a brother and a priest, who are running and brought together the Viatorian House for young men that are working on becoming legal in our country from all over the world. And I think of our brethren that are in Las Vegas and started that Cristo Rey School. To me, what they do day in and day out just speaks of their dedication to the church and to faith. It's very rewarding.
We're talking with Mary Finks and Susan Bourgeois today. They're joining us from Central Illinois. As you hear, they've been involved in parish life quite a bit and many other activities as Viatorian associates. And you both mentioned music ministry as a means of being involved. Talk to me first, before we talk about some aspects of that, talk about the music impacting liturgical celebrations in general. I'm sure it's important to you. And what are your thoughts on the role music plays in the Sunday Mass?
Well, I truly believe that the music is another spiritual way of being present. And I also am a firm believer that it enhances worship. But with that brings responsibility. It needs to be done in you need to practice. You need to look at the readings. You need to see, is it a special Sunday or a special weekend? And then, research the songs or research the responsorial psalms that fit, that go along with all of it. And I just truly guarantee that when people have that type of liturgical sense and you're at Mass attending, it just becomes a whole a bigger experience for you, where it's not just the readings and stuff, not just the homily, but it's the music also enhances everything.
Yeah, it's the whole experience. It's the whole experience of the Eucharist, really, to me. But with that being said, the music is very, very important, but it should never be the show. It should never. It's prayer. It's prayer. It should always be prayer. And I was fortunate enough to go to Catholic grade school and high school my whole life, and I remember the chorus director in high school saying, "Music is praying twice," and I have always felt that it is really praying twice, because you're reviewing what you're singing, and you're adding your voice to it. You're giving a voice to it. So I think it's really important that the music for liturgy is a huge responsibility, and it has to fit the occasion, whatever that occasion is. Yeah.
I had a great conversation with a couple of young men recently on this podcast, young brothers, one still in college.
The brothers from Las Vegas. The brothers from Las Vegas.
Yeah, and one of them was involved in music ministry. Has that been your experience? Is music a great way for young people to be active in the church?
Oh,
it can be.
Think so.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, and especially nowadays, and maybe they had this back in my day, I don't remember, but, there's Christian rock bands, and that's just a whole new way to approach young people.
It's become so much more popular, though, Christian music. Catholic music, Christian music, doesn't matter. If it's based on the Word, it's a wonderful way to pull young people in, because it speaks to them when it's the sound that they like to hear, the type of music that they hear. To me, there's so many different sounds to music in the Catholic Church. Sometimes it's classic, old, traditional hymns, and sometimes it's more today music. Music from authors and writers of today's times. So, there's all kinds of music to listen to and that pull you into prayer. I think it's excellent for young people.
Yeah, and before I let you go, I've got about a minute left here. I want to circle back to the associate program. Give each of you just a quick moment here to maybe share a thought with someone else who might be considering that path, or is looking for involvement in the church, and the associate role might be a place for them. What would you suggest to someone?
It's certainly a call. Considering the process of becoming an associate is really a call to deeper faith and deeper reflection. If you are familiar with the Viatorians and you care for how they are with people, how they work with people, how they live their lives, then it's certainly something to consider.
Yes, absolutely. I would also say that if you are being, even considering any of it, that's the little nudge right away, and just listen to your heart. And the associate program right now has wonderful discerning activities that you can do to really help you through the process. And as Mary said, I too believe it is a calling, just like anything else in your life.
Truly,
well,
truly.
It's been very informative talking to both of you today, Mary Finks, Susan Bourgeois. Thank you for being a part of the podcast today and taking time to share some of your thoughts. And I want to thank everyone for being a part of it. And, of course, the Viatorian community, so important to everyone. And that includes the Bourbonnais-Kankakee region. Region is home to Viatorian's first permanent American ministry, Maternity BBM Parish, as well as Viatorian-led parishes, St. George, St. Mary, and St. Patrick. And the Viatorians have also worked in various roles with Bishop McNamara Catholic Schools. These ministries are part of the Diocese of Joliet, and Viatorians are honored to be a part of that community for over 150 years. Learn more, stviator.org, stviator.org. thanks so much for listening. Thanks to our guests, and look forward to a future conversation on Viatorian Voices.